So we have a little bit of an update to the whole Bud Light boycott situation. An executive, an Anheuser-Busch ex-executive, comes out and says that the Bud Light boycott is actually working. I mean, obviously we knew, but it's one thing to see it working, and it's another thing to kind of hear an ex-executive, and I'm assuming this ex-executive is somebody who is removed during this whole controversy, right? They fired, I don't remember the exact number that it was, of executives in Bud Light that they fired, and then naturally the person who started the whole thing, the VP of Bud Light, the one whose idea all of this was, who put all of this into action, she was actually suspended, so she hasn't even been fired yet. However, they fired a bunch of other people. So I thought it was kind of cool to see that a Bud Light executive or an ex-Bud Light executive came out and basically said, yeah, man, this boycott is working, and historically, we as Americans have heard that boycotts don't work, that it doesn't really matter if you boycott something or not, which could possibly mean that this is the first boycott that's ever really gone the distance. And if we switch over to this article, Anheuser-Busch has actually lost a staggering $15.7 billion in value since the Bud Light controversy began, as its rivals add $3.2 billion to their values, and experts warn of a possible beer shortage in the future. This is concrete evidence of the number that we were talking about the other day. If you watched the past video, you'll know that we mentioned the number 12 billion. It was about 25% of their market share. In the first 7 days, they lost $7 billion, which was right around 17% of their market share. That number has now gone up to 25%, and recently it's even gone up to 15.7 billion, which is a massive amount. It is incredible to see how far Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch has fallen in just these past couple of months. And like we just said, experts don't think that the boycott's going anywhere anytime soon. Tons of people, millions of people are not going to drink this beer from now on. And I don't think there's really anything that Anheuser-Busch or Bud Light could do to get these people back. Right, the bridge has just been burnt, and they've really tried to kind of play around with the idea of like, okay, well, let's try to make everybody happy. Let's not come out and say that we did the wrong move, but let's not come out and say that, the people boycotting us are bad people or whatever. They're kind of trying to ride the fence on this one in hopes that, they get multiple people or millions of people, honestly, from both sides of the aisle to kind of come around eventually and say, okay, we'll give it a chance. So to all of you guys out there who are boycotting Bud Light and holding them accountable for their actions. And Anheuser-Busch also, by the way, not just Bud Light, but Anheuser-Busch has lost a ton of money too. Good job. I mean, great job, honestly. Keep doing it. Boycotts may not have worked consistently in the past. I'm sure there are other instances of boycotts working other than just this Bud Light boycott. However, this one has been by far the most successful boycott in history as far as I was able to find. And the people boycotting have done an incredible job because they've not only come out and said, I'm not drinking Bud Light, but they've actually looked at the things that Anheuser-Busch owns, which I'll go ahead and put on the screen just to show you and give you an idea, because you may love Rolling Rock, but you may not know that they're associated with Anheuser-Busch and Bud Light. Well, yeah, that's the truth behind it. And honestly, Anheuser-Busch owns a lot of different products out there. So a lot of these people who are boycotting Bud Light, they're not just boycotting Bud Light. They're going up the chain even further, looking at Anheuser-Busch and saying, okay, we can't buy or we can't drink any of this anymore. And it has really caused a lot of worry and a lot of pain for Anheuser-Busch, I'm sure. Now, naturally, they're going to come out and they're just going to say, oh, yeah, no, we're not worried about it. It'll blow over. We're still the number one beer in the world, which, by the way, is true for this moment. However, if things keep going the way that they're going right now, it won't be true for very long. In fact, we could see Bud Light lose its title as the number one beer in the world by as soon as June, if not July. And I think I think that's music to my ears right there. I think that is an amazing thing. Obviously, we're not going to get, Anheuser-Busch out of business. It's just never going to happen. You can send a very clear message if they lose that number one spot. And they had the number one spot by a pretty decent margin from my understanding. So Molson Coors, which owns Coors Light, has actually had an increase of $2.2 billion to their market value. Now, I'm not sure which beer is number 2. I haven't really looked at the list a ton. I've kind of heard the stats in the past, but it is so interesting that certain companies, Molson Coors, right, is up $2.2 billion. Now, one thing to mention is that Molson Coors does own Miller Lite, which also came out with a woke ad just recently that we covered. So truthfully, it's going to be really hard to kind of find the right beer. My suggestion would be Yuengling. Yuengling is a beer that actually came to my state. I'm in Missouri. Yuengling came to my state recently. Whenever this whole Bud Light controversy came out, they decided that they were going to basically do the opposite of what Bud Light did, which was kill their brand, and they changed the design of their cans to be more patriotic. And I believe they actually came out with some commercials and stuff around that topic too, trying to be more patriotic and trying to appeal to the beer drinking audience, because don't be fooled. Most liberals don't typically drink beer. Most women don't typically drink beer. They do whenever you get into the imports and the microbrews and more things like that. However, whenever it is macro brews, things like Bud Light, Busch Light, Miller Lite, Coors Light, any of the very well-known beers out there, including Rolling Rock, that is always going to be mostly conservative men are the people who are going to be the main client, the main customer for those companies. So naturally, whenever Bud Light decided to spit in the face of their customer base, you get what you deserve, a staggering loss of $15.7 billion in value. That is crazy. And honestly, it is so impressive to me that people have just done this. Like, there's been no coordination. There's been nothing. There's not some super double secret patriarchy meeting where we said, okay, well, they came out with the woke ad, so we can't come in here and drink Bud Light anymore or any other Anheuser-Busch products. Tough luck, guys. It was just every person who heard this ad in massive numbers said, no, okay, that's the end of it. They came to their own conclusion. It wasn't, hey, you should do this. It was completely just by their own volition. And I mean, if you are boycotting Anheuser-Busch, if you are boycotting Bud Light and whatever other companies have gone woke and are subsequently on the road to going broke, good for you guys. Honestly, these are the types of things that you love to see. The American people speaking with their dollar is the strongest way and the best way to be heard by these massive companies and corporations. Anyway, guys, that's all for now. I've got to go do some work, but check back soon because the lies never sleep and neither do we. I hope you enjoyed our take on this situation, a massive $15.7 billion loss for Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch. What are your thoughts on that? Have you ever seen a boycott work better? Is there anything that Anheuser-Busch or Bud Light could come out and say or do that would give you a reason to go back to them and start drinking Bud Light again? Also, like, subscribe, and share this video with a friend. That's how we get the news out there, and it is so much appreciated. Make sure to check out our online store at theredmafia.com. We just released new shirts over there, and we'll continue to be releasing new shirts every single week. So you'll find something that you will absolutely love at our store, so go check it out. It'll also be linked in the description down below.